thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. I will talk about for about half an hour, and then we have another half an hour to discuss how to include digital competencies in the competence models. I'm Suvi from Finland. I represent the Finnish National Center of Expertise for Digital Youth Work. First, a couple of words about the organization I come from, or actually it's not an organization. Verke is an independent unit under the City of Helsinki Youth Department. So our funding comes 100% from the government, from the Ministry of Education and Culture, who has given us the task to develop digital youth work all over Finland, but we are based in Helsinki under the City of Helsinki Youth Department. So we have been working already since 2011 with this topic of digital youth work in Finland, and in the recent years also internationally, because this topic has gained interest also internationally. At the moment we have seven full-time employees, lacking one at the moment, but looking for a new person. What we do is that we want to increase the knowledge of how to use digital media and technology in youth work in Finland. We also want to support the structures of youth work so that the digital media and technology can be used in youth work, meaning basically that we are involved when new, for example, training schemes are developed for youth worker trainings in institutions. So we are there to help them how to include digital youth work in their training schemes. Then we also want to see innovative services and concepts in the field of youth work for using digital media and technology. Because for many years, digital youth work in Finland meant basically using Facebook in youth work, and that was good for a couple of years, but as we all know, young people haven't been using Facebook for many years now. So we want to encourage youth workers also to think of new ways how to use digital media and technology in their work. And also Finland has a very strong tradition of online youth work, meaning online counseling between youth workers and young people online. And it has been difficult for our youth workers to understand that now digital technology has been developed so that online counseling isn't the only way of using digital technology. And also we would like to see more digital youth work methods which are actually happening face to face and not online. I will give a few examples later on. Oh yeah, that's our team. Then I was also the Finnish representative in the expert group of digitalization and youth for a couple of or 1.5 years. This is the shorter version leaflet that's on the table right there, and there's also the longer version of the full report of our expert group reports. You might want to grab one on your way out. It's also available online. But I will mainly focus on this half an hour. I will guide you through this document on the training needs of digital youth work that we, as an expert group, came up with. I will also fill in with some of my own thoughts and own ideas, but I will tell you when it's only me and when it's this expert group. Oh yeah, and I also wanted to circulate this book. This came out about a year ago in English. This is Digital Youth Work, a Finnish perspective. We wanted to translate some of our most popular writings into English. And if you want to have your own copy, it's totally free. Not even postage has to be paid. So you can have a look and you can write your contacts and how many copies you want in this format, and I will post this to you. You can wish to have as many as you wish. Okay. So the expert group was launched in 2016, and it was under the European Union Work Plan for Youth. One of the activities. I'm sure you are all really you know this document, and you know that there was these 6 priorities listed, and one of those, E was about contribution to addressing the challenges and opportunities of the digital era for youth, also to lay the basis for policy recommendations that would possibly be the basis for council conclusions, and they actually were. I will also talk to you about that. But the first thing, lay the basis for training modules on digital youth work. We actually, in our final publication, there are there are many things that can be listed under that, laying the basis for training needs. First of all, we listed relevant training needs for digital youth work. We didn't want to make a competence list or competence model, because we didn't want to give out the expression that people should know all these things before they can start doing digital work, youth work. So instead, we decided to call it list of relevant training needs. Then we have examples of innovative good practices on digital youth work, and a list of online available training materials that actually do already exist. And we believe that based on these 3 elements, those people who want to create the training modules for digital youth work, they can actually get going and create their own training modules. But today I will go through these bolded things. So first of all, the definition of digital youth work, the list of relevant training needs, and then also shortly about the policy recommendations. Definition of digital youth work. This is I copied it exactly how it's written on the final publication, and I actually think that this definition is one of the most important, or the most important thing that this expert group did, because there wasn't a definition of digital youth work existing before this expert group made it, and because it's now made, I can truly say, honestly say, that this is made in collaboration with all the 20 plus experts. So this is now jointly understood and jointly accepted by the experts to be the definition of digital youth work. We spent hours and hours on formulating this definition and the wording, how it should be. So now it's really thoroughly thought through. The main thing is actually the first bullet point. If you put it really simply, digital youth work means proactively using and or addressing digital media and technology in youth work. It's as simple as that. Youth workers have been doing that as long as there has been digital media and technology, so there's actually nothing new to it. The definition is new, but the practice itself has been around for decades already. We wanted to emphasize in this definition that digital youth work is not a youth work method. So it's not something that one youth worker in the youth work community can do, or that it should be left only to one youth worker, but it should be comprehensively all youth workers that do digital youth work. So digital youth work can happen in for example, open youth work, youth clubs, youth information and counseling services, detached youth work. It should and it can happen in every youth work setting. Digital youth work has the same goals as youth work in general, so it's again, it's nothing new. And we also wanted to emphasize that digital youth work can happen in face-to-face situations as well as in online environments. As I said, in Finland, Finnish youth workers have had difficulties understanding that digital media and technology can also be included in face-to-face situations, not only online. Now I will step into something else away from this publication. this is very well said. This was part of our Erasmus Plus project a couple of years back, Screenager's research report that we did together with 5 other countries in Europe, and we made a survey in these 6 countries in total about the digital youth work, what's actually happening, what's the situation using digital technology in youth work in these 6 countries. And this is a quote from one of those survey answers. Youth work values are what's most important, and then we build the technology around that. Again, as simple as that. It's youth work that's most important. We sometimes see in Finland that youth workers are really into technology. They are really into, for example, podcasting. Some of the youth workers are at the moment really much into podcasting personally themselves, and they want to do podcasts. But then when we go there and consult them about how to use podcasts in youth work, we find out that they actually haven't thought about the youth work values or youth work goals. They just want to do podcasts. They want to do podcasting, and they haven't thought about what's the value for young people. So that's when we have to remind them that, okay, it's really good that you are really into podcasts, but have young people actually asked for it, or do young people even listen to podcasts? So yeah, it's a good thing to be into technology, but maybe not too much. This is not from this publication, just to mix the things up a little bit. What are we actually talking about when we talk about digitalization and youth work? Are we talking about upskilling young people's digital competencies? Yes, that's digital youth work. Are we talking about digital youth work services, for example, those chat services online? Yes, that's digital youth work. Are we talking about digital solutions used in youth work? Meaning, for example, if there is, if you are concerned about, for example, young boys consuming too much time gaming, and you want to interfere somehow, the solution might be to have a gaming club in the youth house, so that you can set an environment of responsible gaming. So that's a digital solution in youth work, and yes, that's digital youth work. Then are we talking about digital infrastructure in youth work, meaning the equipment, the online connections at youth houses, the smartphones that youth workers have? So that's not digital youth work as such, but that's kind of a prerequisite that has to be there in order to do digital youth work. So that is also for you something to consider when you do the competence model. On what level are you talking about the digitality and youth work? Well, what of these aspects do you want to be included in the competence model? As was discussed before, also as the youth participation, it has, or the citizenships has so many definitions and viewpoints to it. So does digitality. You might want to narrow it down a little bit, or at least to have the discussion. What are we talking about? Another figure or a table about digital youth work. This was introduced by researcher Sirkku Kotilainen already over 10 years ago. Back then they didn't talk about digital youth work, it was about media education or media literacy or digital literacy in youth work. But nonetheless, I think that her distinction between technological viewpoint and socio-cultural viewpoint in using media in youth work still applies today. On the other side, the technological viewpoint is more about digitalizing youth work services, and on this side, the socio-cultural viewpoint is more or less increasing young people's digital skills. Again, these are both digital youth work. It depends on what kind of viewpoint you take on it. and there are some examples of each aspect. I will also run through quickly a few practical examples of digital youth work, what it actually is in practice. Online counseling, I already mentioned. I know it's happening in all European countries at some level, either in social media services or at youth organizations' own platform. This is an example from Denmark. Cyberhus, that's one of the first online counseling services that in Europe, and they are still running. That's one example. Another example is gaming with young people. This is a church built in Minecraft. This example is from Finland. This is actually an physically existing church that the parish of a municipality in southern Finland has decided to build up in Minecraft, and they have services in this church in Minecraft, and young people come there and they actually queue up to be part of the religious service in Minecraft. So that's I think that's a really clever way of that parish to engage with young people, because young people don't go to traditional like churches so much in Finland, but in Minecraft they do. And the youth workers, church youth workers there, they also talk with young people also about other issues than religious issues. So they kind of do online counseling inside this gaming world. One example, this is also from the church side in Finland. This is actually a youth priest that has a vlog on YouTube. And it's really popular. His most popular video has had something like over 60,000 views, an enormous amount. And I think his vlog is really good again for the church to reach out to young people. By this, they show that the church is like up to date and approachable, and also online. And he replies to comments that his videos get, and he talks on his videos about relationships, anything that concerns young people, and he also does these kind of backstage videos, how it's about a priest's life, how he prepares himself if there's a wedding coming up or something. So I think it's a really good example. Then making YouTube videos with young people, that's of course also digital youth work. This example is from Ireland. Young refugees making videos about their lives. That's nothing new. There has been media productions in youth work for 50 years, I think. So yeah. Then my current favorite, latest addition, maker culture. So that means, for example, coding, making new technological devices with young people. And the idea behind that is that by making new technological devices by themselves, young people also realize that everything, technology is made by people. It's not something that comes from outer space or just happens. But technology is also something that we and young people can have an influence on. They can affect how the technological products will be like in the end. And this particular hobby horse is an example, a great example of how to include digital technology in traditional handicrafts that are made in youth work anyway. Hobby horses are a big thing in Finland at the moment. Among teenage girls, they have hobby horse races on youth houses, for example. They make their own hobby horses and then they race with them. That has been a thing for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The dressage, the competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's spread to Sweden as well. It's really
yeah,
in Germany as well.
yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah. But
Cool.
yeah,
Really
but
good.
someone had a really good idea of how to include technology in these hobby houses. So you can see this here. That's actually a microbit, a really small computer that you can program. And this particular hobby house has been programmed so that when they are doing the race, like racing with the horse, its eyes start blinking. The faster you go, the faster the eyes blink. You can do anything, of course, with these kind of computers. You could make it make a sound or whatever. But I think this is a brilliant example of how to use technology in an engaging way, and also how to make young girls interested in coding, because that's traditionally maybe more boys are into it. So I think this is a really good simple example, and also a simple example of how to include digital technology in face-to-face youth work, not only to be online youth work. If you want to see more practical examples of what digital youth work is, I advise you to go to digitalyouthwork.eu. There are now altogether 18 videos about digital youth work good practices. It was launched a couple of weeks ago, so it's really brand new. It's part of our Key Action 2 project with those countries listed on the screen. There will be more good practice videos next September. Okay, then I will jump back to this expert group leaflet and the training needs for digital youth work. These are the 7 main headings for the training needs, and as I said, we didn't want to call them competencies. First, we did talk about competencies, but when we realized that we have altogether almost 40 competencies, then we decided that we don't want to give the impression that you will have to know all these things before you can go and actually practice digital youth work, because we want to say that digital youth work is something that everyone can do. You don't have to know how to code, for example, before you can do digital youth work. So that's why we call them training needs, and these are the main top headings of those. We used as a basis, we used the DigiComp framework that was launched a few years ago, and then it was updated 2.0 just when we were finishing these our training needs. So we adjusted our training needs to be in line with the newest DigiComp model. We have basically the same. DigiComp has 5 competence areas. We have 7, but these 5 are basically the same as are in DigiComp. So also to make it clear that we have used this as a basis. So we transferred this digital competence framework, which is meant for all EU citizens. We transferred it to the world of youth work. So when this says that digitally competent citizens are able to create and edit digital content, we say that youth workers are able to help young people to create and edit digital content. We also added, it's not exactly the same as this one. The main headings are the same, but the things under it are maybe not. For example, we added the maker culture in youth workers' competencies. That was not part of the DigiComp framework, but we wanted to have it as part of youth workers' competence list, training needs list. Another framework that we used as a basis was this mentoring technology enhanced pedagogy model from the formal education side. It was published in 2017, 2017, so it was also really new when we made these youth worker training needs. This was done by European Schoolnet with a few countries participating in it. And we mainly took, from this we took the digital pedagogy part. And it says planning and implementing teaching with ICT, designing and managing ICT-based learning environments, and ICT supported assessment. And these all things we took into our training needs list. So if we go back to, sorry, it doesn't. Yeah, the training needs, which you can see in whole in here. I looked at your competence model for youth workers to train internationally, and I saw that there are actually some of these headings are overlapping. You also have one competence that says communication, and we also have one about communication. You also had something about evaluation. We have number 7, knowing how to reflect and evaluate one's own work. There was also something else that was overlapping. So I think that it would be easy to combine these for you to look at the individual training needs from here and see if there's something that could fit into your existing framework. We will save that discussion in a few 10 minutes or so. That if digital competencies should be an individual or separate competence area, or if it should be intertwined in everything. To put it short, I want to emphasize some of the key messages from the expert group, from this publication, and also from the discussions that we had during the 1.5 years. We say also in this publication that every youth worker should or must understand the importance of digitalization. So the society is changing and has changed because of digital technology already so much that also youth workers and youth work cannot close their eyes from it. So youth work has to also to change and adapt to this digital society. Also, young people's cultures have changed. The way of communication has changed among young people, also as adults, but young people especially. And their cultures of, for example, what they see as hobbies has changed, and etc. So youth workers must understand that it's a really important thing. It's not something that someone else can do, but every youth worker should be able to understand importance at least. So youth workers do not need to be tech experts. The attitude is more important than skills as such. It's also because the technology is changing so fast. So if youth workers learn digital skills now, they are outdated by tomorrow. So it's more important to understand the importance and that you will have to engage in lifelong learning about these digital technologies. It's also sometimes when we go to talk to youth workers or youth work organizations about digital youth work, we are faced with the attitude that our younger employees do it. The older, because they are not involved in this digital world, so they are not doing it. The younger youth workers will do it, and they will wait for even younger youth workers to come, and then the new youth workers, they will know how to use social media in youth work. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't, because the technology is changing so rapidly, so that those that are the young youth workers now, they do not understand what it's like to be a 15-year-old in the digital world. So the gap is really huge, and it's growing all the time. So the most important thing is to know how to include digital elements in one's own work. If you are the one running the handicraft workshop, you might want to look at these maker elements, how to include maker things or coding into your work, for example. If you are doing face-to-face counseling, you might want to see how to include online counseling. And if you are doing international youth work, you should at least know how to build online communities for young people from different countries, for example. How to use social media in grouping activities with young people from different countries, for example. Not everyone has to know everything about digitality, but everyone needs to know something. Yes, so I will quickly move on to the policy recommendations. This is a quote from somewhere else. This is not by me. This is someone wiser has said this. High quality youth work requires competent youth workers, but having competent youth workers does not automatically lead to high quality youth work. This is, I think, also why they wanted us to do, besides the training needs list, they wanted also us to do the policy recommendations. Because if you want to have quality youth work, of course it has to be in the structures of youth work as well. Because competencies are always an individual's competencies, but also the organization or the youth work structures has to also support digital youth work. So that's why we made policy recommendations. These are again only the main headings or the main things of the policy recommendations. We wanted to emphasize these four things that should happen in member states, and also these can also be read as what has to happen in youth work organizations throughout Europe. And I think what you are doing right now, or what we are doing here right now, falls into this second category, strategic development of digital youth work. Plans for developing digital youth work incorporated into strategies like your competence list and training plans. So that's really important. And these were actually our expert group's policy recommendations worked as a basis for council conclusions on smart youth work that were accepted last November during the Estonian presidency. Estonia wanted to call it smart youth work instead of digital youth work, and they are not exactly the same thing. There is a small difference. They overlap, but they are not the same thing. Smart youth work is a bit broader term. It also covers how to use technology in developing youth work, not only digital youth work, but all youth work. For example, how to use big data in developing youth work. They also, is there someone from Estonia here today? No. I'm really jealous of their national concept of smart youth work. They have a brilliant national strategy on how to develop smart youth work in Estonia, and that's really good. I wish we had one in Finland as well. I know that during the Finnish presidency, that's gonna happen next fall, the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture is hoping to launch council conclusions on digital youth work next year. At least they will have it as one of their priorities in the youth work sector. This is a quote from the council conclusions on smart youth work. So it also says that the motivation, capacity and competence building of youth workers and youth leaders to develop and implement smart youth work should be developed. And again, this is what you are doing here here right now, so that's really good. And I'm sure that you are really familiar also with the new EU youth strategy or the draft proposal. Digital youth work and digital issues are really well included in the draft version at the moment. I really hope that they will stay there until the final version. This is from Finland, an example what we did in order to make it happen that the digital youth work is also in the structures of youth work, not only individuals' competencies. We published these guidelines for digital youth work 2 years ago. These are also in English in the book that was circulating, and we have made for youth work organizations a grid where they can assess their own level of digital youth work, where they are as an organization. Yes, this was the book. Some things I wanted to mention was what are to come in the really near future, and we are together with Estonian Youth Work Center. We will organize Some Camp, that's short for social media camp, in June in Estonia. We joined forces with Estonia because we really like their smart youth work concept, and we see that there's something that we can, as countries, we can learn from each other, and also we are really close to each other. So we will make this event for youth workers that's really hands-on digital youth work, where youth workers can learn good practices on digital youth work from each other. And also we are doing with Estonia a book about the near future of digitalization and youth work, because as I said in the beginning, we want to see also innovations of how to use media and technology in youth work. So we made this a bit like forward-looking book about technology, what might happen, what might come in the near future. That will be published in February. Yeah, so I have used my 30 minutes, and now it's time for discussion. How should digital competencies be included in both the competence models? Should digital competencies be a separate competence, a new competence area, or throughout the document transversally?
So. Yes, thank you, Suvi.